Hey everyone, this is Dan Wynn, and I have a very special guest with me today on the Intentional Entrepreneur Show. She is the owner of Anderson Professional Development Coaching, and she dedicates to providing a safe space for professionals to discover their potential and step into their opportunity. She believes in being self-aware and other aware, key components of emotional intelligence, which we'll talk about today, and individuals that can make a positive impact in their work ecosystem. She uses the EQ 2.0 emotional intelligence assessment to help individuals lead with exponential results and embrace opportunities. I'd like to welcome to the show today, Britta Anderson.
Hi, Dan. It's great to talk to you and be able to join you and your listeners.
Sorry, there's a video. My pleasure. You switch here for some reason. Okay, perfect. No, thanks for being on the show. We got to work a little over a year ago, and as we working together, I got to know a little bit about what you do, and I thought, I gotta have this person on the show because I think I don't know a lot about emotional intelligence, but from what I do know, and you can correct me as I go on, it's there's IQ, right? Intentional, and then there's EQ, which I presume as kind of the personality side, the way you interact with people, not just like kind of how smart you are, book smart. But before we kind of get into all that and how professionals can utilize EQ, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into what you're doing here today.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So my background is in leadership and coaching. In 2017, I decided to go back to school and get a degree in organizational leadership. In the process, a number of my professors were also executive coaches. So I was able to do some sessions with them, and I was really blown away by the impact it had on me and how I related to people at work. Because sometimes I get really frustrated, and I just was like, there has to be a better way. And then that led to me going back to school again to get a degree in coaching and eventually opening up my coaching business. So it's really been through my own self-discovery and self-improvement that it's come back to how do I give back to others? And I find such joy in that, specifically using the emotional intelligence tools.
Right. Talk about leadership and executive coaching. Typically these are, you're working with established leaders who are kind of looking to get to the next level. But how do you how do you kind of break the shell for a lot of these are high performance, I don't know if it was the right word, it's type A, but like I got here on my own volition. But how do you kind of break through their maybe mindset is like, hey, for you to get to the next level, you're gonna need some help, and to maybe expand your mind about how leaders can kind of be a little bit more vulnerable and having someone like you come in and kind of helping them get to where they want to go.
That's great that you brought that up, because often you have very successful people. However, usually there's something that's not going well. Usually there's something that's like, we'll call it just a pain point, right? That it's just like, this isn't working out, and it keeps not working out. So then I have to ask, well, how long do you want that to go on for? Or do you want to try to do something about it and make a difference?
Yeah. So was to suffice to say, you only show up when the problems are around.
No, there's also people that are a little more proactive, right? Yeah. I mean, sometimes, yes, the problems push them over to me. But there's also people that say, there's a better way. There's a different way. Let's try and see what that is.
Sure. Okay. So now let's kind of dive kind of deeper into what you do specifically with the emotional intelligence. Can you tell maybe before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty, what's the difference between IQ and EQ?
So I would think about IQ as your smarts, your existing knowledge, what you already know. When you think about math, the languages you speak, those types of things. And then when you start to look at EQ, you're really looking at your emotional skills, your social skills, how you cope with stress. And what's really interesting is EQ is unique in that you can grow it over time. So it's like a muscle. So the more you practice it, you get better at it and you can continue to hold on to it. It's also really dynamic. So you can choose to use it in the moment as you become more aware of, I'll use the tools in the tool belt analogy. It's kind of what that's like. Yeah.
Okay. And then, I think everyone kind of desires to be book smart, but why is it important for leaders to kind of grow their EQ muscle?
Mm-hmm. I really think it helps you optimize the situation, and it helps you figure out how you impact other people. And I'm sure you've probably had this situation, I know I have, where you go, okay, that didn't quite go right, or that could have gone differently, but maybe you don't know why that is. So when you have emotional intelligence tools, you can make decisions in the moment as you're going through the process that are going to make it a lot better for everyone, not just yourself, but the people that you're trying to negotiate or do a business deal with. It really has a stronger impact.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about kind of when you use employ these techniques with your clients.
Sure.
Maybe if you can share, one very common scenario where the leaders are, I need to bring someone like Britta in to help me because I've got this particular situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, a really common scenario is somebody that is a strong achiever, meaning they get things done, but maybe they don't communicate as well with another team member or a group of people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad communicator. They could be a great communicator. However, they just may not be that aware of how they come across to other people and then what happens to the dynamic because they're just not aware. So, yeah.
You talk about kind of awareness. Yeah, I think that's a really important point because, there's a saying, there's kind of two ways of saying, like, we're inside the bottle, so we can't see what's on the label. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had this discussions with several people is we have a perception of what other people may think, but it's actually like the opposite. Right. And it goes back to self-awareness is like how they may have perceived the way I said it one way or another. But we based on, how we've been trained or how we grow up, we think one way and either it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's very normal. And I'm sure many people can relate to that feeling of you think you understand all the aspects or this is the way it should be done. And sometimes there's more to that. And so when you can help somebody be aware of what's going on and how they're perceived, a different type of communication begins to happen.
Yeah. And it's, would you say it's not actually answering the question, how are they perceiving it, but it's more about asking the question yourself. So you're kind of peeling back the onions and you start to think about 2-3 different ways they are perceived, not the way they're actually perceiving. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So you could be more aware of what you're feeling in the moment. So for example, a common one for me would be sometimes I get really frustrated. And if I can be aware of my frustrations, then I can go like, oh, if I communicate differently, it's going to impact someone differently. Most people don't want to come up to a frustrated person and communicate initially. So if I can come across in a different way. So it's just kind of having that awareness and knowledge that, oh, this is going to go better if we kind of change up how we're interacting.
Yeah. Now is I guess communication awareness or perception awareness. Next to that, what are the other common things that you've helped leaders do and kind of break through?
I'd say the other things are the maintaining the relationships. So through the self-awareness and the perception of others, that really helps you have a strong connection. and continue to build. So you continue to build trust with your coworkers or your clients and maintain the communication. It also helps people cope better in life in general. So it helps people make better decisions or manage their stress better. So as you're coping better, that it becomes almost like a circular effect, because it goes back and helps you. If you're in a better place, you're going to do a better job of being more aware, and your overall well-being will continue to improve as you build on that.
Right. I think certainly coping, ability to cope and respond to certain situations is a certain, sometimes it's not always innate, but sometimes it's a learned skill, which, help someone like you to come in and help train on. With regards to kind of the broader concept of EQ, do you, when you come into a company or work with one particular person or a team, do you have like a do assessment first to see where they're at, or what's kind of your preferred training style?
I usually prefer to do some initial interaction to find out what's going on, because I often find that maybe what they initially come to me for has a deeper issue. There's something else underlying. So it's good just to kind of start digging and having those conversations. And then I use the EQI 2.0, which I'm certified in. I use that, and it really acts as a mirror. I've had a number of clients say, oh, wow, that really reflected back to me what's going on and reaffirmed maybe what you already might know about yourself. However, it just shines a light on it. And we can start asking questions from there and digging from there.
Right. You talk about the root cause. Are you finding, is it mostly the root cause of maybe the leadership? Is it mostly business? Is it kind of mostly personal? And if they address the personal, does a lot of the root stem from the personal issues or personal events that have happened?
I would say that yes, a lot of times the underlying issue is something going on internally in the person, and maybe they're just not aware of it yet, or they haven't had somebody that they can start to talk it out with to get there, to get to that point of, oh, that's what's going on. That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah. And I think, there's value in having a third party. And I was talking to someone, they did marriage counseling, and they were recommending it to another person. It's because that person is trained to ask questions either that you haven't even thought about or are asking, but you're not sure if it's the right question. So having just a person just to facilitate something and stirring things, in your mind, is very helpful. And has that been kind of the same thing you've been finding with your clients? Is like, oh, I knew this, but you just kind of brought it out of me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I trust people that it's there, and I really try to make a safe place and a safe situation to start just going through that process. It happens a lot. Yeah. Where people will say, gosh, I haven't had somebody listen to me like this, or take the time or make the space so that I can start exploring what's happening here. And now that I can, speaking from the client's point of view, I'm able to get the words out. I'm able to start really seeing the fuller picture.
And so, in a profession like yours, as opposed to like, if you run an ad, you can kind of track sales based on the ad. How in your, particular line of work, how do you measure results, right? How do you know that what they've hired you to do has been effective for them?
I really try to work with the clients, the coaches, the people that are involved in the process. And at the beginning, we make a plan and we say, what would this look like in the future? How will we know that we've succeeded? What do you want to see? And so as we go along, we can have something to compare to know, is there progress? Are we going in the direction we want to go to? And usually there's something they're working towards or the business would like to see.
Yeah. And are you finding, management receptive from upper management hiring and bringing someone like you and say, hey, we want to improve the middle management team. We brought someone like Britta, work with her because we need to, get more results out of middle management.
Yeah, I think there are companies out there that are really receptive and they see the benefits of coaching. So they make time for it. They make finances for it at different levels, at all levels. And I've also seen it from people that are professionals that come to me individually, where maybe their companies aren't bringing me in, but they know they're going to benefit from it, and then their company will benefit from it. So I think it's people that value that.
Yeah. And I think, kind of going back to the first question, there's some people who like, hey, I'm going to do this all on my own, which is kind of a very lonely road. But if you have someone like you or, any other professional coach that can really ask the right questions, really stretch your abilities, stretch your, EQ, it really can take you to, the next level. Like, like Olympic athletes is the kind of analogy I always see. Like these are people that are top of their game. And I don't know any Olympic athlete that doesn't have their own coach, right?
Right, absolutely. Yes.
Right. So kind of back to emotional intelligence. How receptive are you finding the leadership teams that you're coaching to this particular topic, right? Because there's there's wide range of topics you can train in the concept of leadership, but EQ is a very kind of niche, so to speak, right? And then so how do you explain to them, this is you'll benefit if we train on this particular topic with your team?
I usually find that it's complementary. So I can take different models of learning and development and make a EQ interweave with it. So if it seems like there's a certain type of model they'd like to use, then I find what's going to benefit the situation and almost plug it in. And if it fits there, then that's great. Okay.
So it sounds like EQ is very like in most instances, you can probably fit EQ in some sort of training that they're looking for, right?
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that's good to know. So like, no matter what you're looking for in terms of leadership training, there's probably going to be an emotional quotient portion to that. Okay. Yeah. Very good. Now, if someone is looking to kind of up their leadership game, be a better manager, what are some things that they should look for in hiring a coach like yourself?
I would definitely say have a conversation with the coach and talk to a couple different people. Talk to at least 3 different coaches so you can see that people have different styles and ways of doing things, and then see what fits with your company. So I specifically have a certain type of way that I like to go through things. I'm a planner. I like structure. That works well for me. So, I'm going to be a good fit for a company that has that same prospect. And other people are a little more free flowing. So it's more finding the style that fits for them and making sure that the person they're working with is really clear about, you're both really clear about what your intentions are and expectations.
Yeah. I think, it is as deep of a relationship as you can get for how many sessions you get, right? But it's really, you kind of nailed on the head. It's really important because you do need them to be truthful, right? You need them to be somewhat vulnerable, so that you can help them better. And that requires kind of opening that vest. That requires them to have some trust in you that, your main confidence is, but you'll use that information for, their benefit.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, if you can generalize, how long are your trainings, and how soon can someone can achieve results when working with you?
I really try to work for long-term transformation. So I want to see somebody that goes through a process and there's a shift in them, and then that has a exponential shift as it impacts the business. What I notice is that usually takes 6 to 9 months. If you're really looking for somebody to grow and change, it takes time. And you can start seeing it in incremental changes fairly quickly for most people. They have to be willing to do the work and have the support. When they do that, though, over time, then it sticks. And it's something that becomes a part of who they are or a part of the group or the team.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're kind of getting winded down here. Lots of good content. If you can maybe share, I don't want to say red flags, maybe 3 symptoms of leaders or leadership teams where they said, okay, it's time to bring Britta in, and specifically we need to, they may not know it as EQ, but you know it as EQ. Like this is the symptoms, and we need someone to kind of fix these issues.
Sure, absolutely. One of them is lack of communication, which is basically just speaking to each other. So usually there's some fear about people talking to each other. That's one. The other sometimes is if you see a change in performance, something changes about how someone typically behaves, then something's probably going on there. And then another is if someone's trying to reach their goal. So maybe that's not necessarily a red flag. It's more something that's positive that's happening. They need to take a big jump and they just need the skills to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you again, Britta Anderson. So my kind of quasi final question is, when in a group setting and, people are, expressing their maybe experiences working, do you ever do the exercise where only the person with the stick can talk?
Like the campfire.
Yeah. Right. So
we usually have some ground rules there.
Okay.
Well. Yeah.
All right. I had to ask that question. All right. So thank you again, Britta Anderson with Anderson Professional Development Coaching. All right, we're going to get into the rapid fire questions here, because this is called the Intentional Entrepreneur, and you recently launched your own coaching program.
Yes.
So here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Answer the first thing that pops in. All right. Who do you look up to?
Okay, I'll choose a group of people because recently I was reading the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize came out recently. There's a lot of great articles about some amazing women. So that sticks out because I recently read that.
All right. Best business advice you've ever received?
Probably to be authentic, like just be yourself. That's what people are looking for. Yeah.
Right. Best business book you've ever read? Okay,
so this one is my favorite book from school. It's called The Advantage. It's by Patrick Lencioni, and that's my all-time favorite business book. So that one I read on a regular basis.
You're the second person that mentioned Patrick Lencioni on these interviews, so I think I have to go look at some of it.
Yes, go check it out.
All right. If you could do one thing over again, what would it be?
It's, it would be to speak up. There's times when I've gone, I bet everyone else is seeing this or thinking this, and I didn't say something. So there's times I could have spoken up.
All right. And then you lose everything. The only thing you have is your computer, your cell phone, and an internet connection. How do you rebuild your business in 30 days?
It's reaching out to people, just starting to have conversations.
Yeah. All right. And finally, what's the biggest challenge in your business today?
It's me. I do everything all at once.
Yeah.
And I think I need to delegate more and probably collaborate a little bit more. Yeah.
All right. They say the plumber's bathroom is the worst.
Yeah, right.
All right. We have Britta Anderson with the Anderson Professional Development Coaching. If you want to learn more about you, where can we find you?
You can go to my website, which is andersonprocoach.com, or reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is Anderson Pro Coach.
All right. Thank you again, Britta. We'll put those links in the show notes. So anyone who wants to check out her website and Instagram page, you can click on it. Thank you again so much for joining us. The, emotional intelligence is not something I learn a lot about. So it was fantastic having you on the show so I can learn, and hopefully our listeners can get a little bit more insight about how getting better at EQ can benefit their leadership style.
Yes, great. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for being on the show.
Mm-hmm.